Look at how cute.
This is
That's a
actually
great one.
the headquarters at Yamhill National Wildlife Refuge. It's a little ground squirrel.
Oh, that's
And
great.
I actually laid down on the ground, and I actually had to lean up a couple of times to get him to go back in his hole.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't consider that stressing him too much because
No.
people walk by all the time, and you know, they're little popcorn things. They
You
pop
know,
in and out.
he might have been having as much fun as you were playing a game with you.
I think he was, yeah. He was trying to figure out where I was because I kept moving around, and so he'd pop up and look around for me. And
I mean, it's
finally
kind of
catch
cool
me.
to think that that little ground squirrel got you down on your belly,
Yeah,
fiddling
right.
around, you
Yeah.
know, waiting for him to do his thing.
So who's really in control, right?
Exactly. Like anybody with pets sort of knows that, right?
Exactly.
Oh, that's a fabulous picture.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Okay.
And this is at the Yamhill County Fair.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously during the rodeo time,
That's
that
a
was
great
pretty,
picture.
That was a pretty good time shot because I like it because the big cloud of dust where he was, and he's in the air now, and it's sort of like a launch effect to it where he goes up in the air. But,
And the way the sun hits the, yeah, it looks really good. So now tell me about how did you learn how to take pictures or how to do photography just by doing it?
I was back in high school is really when I got serious about it. I've always sort of, you know, the folks had Polaroids around and things like that, so I've always sort of had an interest in photography. But in high school, I was the editorial cartoonist for the Two Carlton High School paper.
Fun. Okay.
Yeah, it was fun for me. It was kind of devastating for everybody else because I was, and still am, a procrastinator.
Okay.
So they're all ready to go home after laying the paper out, and I'm still over there sketching away and kind of thing. So I told my advisor, I want to be a photographer for the paper too. And she was not real keen on the idea because of how long it took me to get the cartoon ready for the paper. But I convinced her, and actually what I did is I did an end around, and I got on the yearbook staff as a photographer.
there we go.
Yeah, so that's when it started, and I had some really, really good friends who were very intelligent about photography, and they had a quasi-club in the high school at the time. And,
Really?
And yeah, so that's where my basis started, and from then it was just having a camera and just, I mean, I've gone through mountains of film, because that's when I started, and just having sort of that artistic slant, I guess, to my personality and being able to do it that way, and I've just been shooting ever since and taking a few seminars, but for the most part it's reading magazines and videos and just doing it.
Okay, I'm going to give you a little sidebar since you mentioned Yamhill Carlton.
Okay.
I met a lady, and they're getting ready. Their class is getting ready to have their 50th
Wow.
year anniversary of the graduating class. And you know, you look at her and you think, 50 years? Wow, you don't look that old.
However, yeah,
but
however
you
that
know,
may
then
be.
I'm thinking, well, how many years has it been for me? I mean, a lot. And she has all of the minutes from the 4
Wow.
years she was in class. I guess she was the class secretary through all those years, and she's got them all tied up with a ribbon. And I said, oh man, you could give those to the Historical Society
kidding,
or
yeah.
something. Wouldn't that be interesting?
That's cool, yeah.
So
Because that's interesting because we're doing our 30th this year from
Okay.
YC. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so you kind of go way back then in terms of art, and you felt that creative urge from the time you were just a kid.
Yeah, because my earliest recollections were my grandmother would give me pictures, drawings or photographs or whatever when I was first, second grade, and she would say I need this bigger or smaller because she embroidered. And so I could actually do a pretty good job of reproducing those images.
Did
either
you do it when
larger-
you do the square thing?
No.
Like you make the square,
It was
you know
all
what I'm talking
freehand.
about?
I can't do that.
Oh, you know,
I don't know why. I can't get my grip on that.
I tried that one time and I thought it was kind of cool.
A lot of people do that,
Yeah.
and for whatever reason, that's not the direction I can go with it.
Okay, well.
But in the 5th grade, I discovered cartooning, and that was pretty much the end of my fine art career because I consider it easier and lazier, and so that's my deal.
So,
I'm a
but
cartoonist.
your grandmother kind of encouraged that in you from a young age. I think that's so important. If kids feel supported and encouraged in their creativity, then it makes them feel free and confident in terms of moving ahead.
Well, and true, and it's kind of an interesting thing, and I know that there's a lot of people who can associate with that. Art is a very subjective sort of an interest. So sometimes it was difficult growing up because my brother was into sports, and he was a cross country runner, and for me, most of my life I've carried some extra weight, and so my plan is, if you're not being chased by some sort of raging animal, there's really no reason to run anywhere.
My brother is a triathlete.
There you go. See, right? You're swimming.
I run
hey.
maybe to the rooftop. No, maybe not. I
Yeah.
take the elevator.
Yeah, I mean, if I see, the little sign that says, the free donut thing, yeah, I'll run.
I'll run.
Sure, because
Boom.
there's a donut.
Just because he's your brother doesn't mean that you have, anything in common except for shared parentage. I
Exactly.
mean,
But
everybody's a rugged individual in life.
yeah, but it was easier for my parents to get behind that because that was more public, so to speak. There's meets and things like that. And what I did was very solo, and so I was probably to them just the weird little kid who sat in his room,
artsy weirdo
with the pencils.
Yeah, exactly. I get that. Well, with sports, it's black and white. It's win or lose.
Exactly.
And it's something that to get behind, and it's that I guess all-American thing or whatever. So.
I mean, not taking anything away from my parents. I'm sure they enjoyed what I did,
of course.
and that kind of thing. It was just, for most people, it's very difficult growing up if that's your main interest for getting that feedback. And one of the things that we also talk about in the club is, one of the first things that I will mention to somebody is, if you're serious about your photography, don't show it to your family if you want feedback, because your family loves everything you do. You are the world's best photographer to your family.
It's true. Yeah. Well, it's the same with writing, probably. You pass it around to your friends and family.
This is awesome. This is great.
Gosh,
great. I want to read more. Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's one of the things that I kind of sell the club with is, we're not going to hammer you. I have yet seen, in my 6-7 years in the club, seen anybody who's been devastated by a review. We're really good about, I might have done it this way, or if you can go back and reshoot it, shoot it from here. We give really good constructive, not only for competition, but just generally for what people like. That's obviously what I'm interested in, trying to sell my stuff, is, just generally what are people's opinions of my work, what works and what doesn't. And so you get all of that stuff. So that's one of the reasons why I say, don't worry about critiquing your work or competition. But at the same token, it's very difficult because we all own that work.
Sure.
The second you've created a photograph or a drawing or have written a piece, you're in love with that. That's part of you. It's all about you, and so it's very hard to hand that to a stranger and say, "What do you think?"
Because it's like that personal rejection. If they don't like it, they don't like you.
Exactly.
I'm no good.
Yes, I'm an outcast. I will be stoned soon.
Exactly.
And
you have
village.
To develop a little bit thicker skin. But I mean, I think that's the advantage of a club like this, of sort of like-minded people, is that there is that sort of it takes some of the, I don't know, the emotional baggage away.
It does.
Because you don't know me, I don't know you. I can say, wow, I really like that. Or you can say, gosh, I would have done it. Why don't you try this? This would be a really cool thing to try. And I don't say, oh, he doesn't like me. Oh,
and we do that genuinely. And that's why I say, the folks who have survived in the club, I mean, we've seen the inklings of people who floated through, who want something more. I know that there are other clubs in the region that are very, very serious and to the point of nearly militant about their stuff. Yeah, this is another tulip. That was actually taken in front of City Hall in Carlton.
Oh, that's pretty.
On that same sunny day way back when, whenever that was, this last spring.
That one.
Yeah,
the one that we had,
yeah.
In this, so far in this decade. So if a person is watching this show and they just think, wow, I would kind of like to maybe get involved with a camera club, or just to meet some of these people, when do you meet?
We meet the second Tuesday of the month. We meet down at the Community Center here in McMinnville, room 201. We also meet the fourth Tuesday of the month, and we meet over at St. John's Lutheran Church in their activity hall, which is behind the church.
Okay.
At 6:30, both locations starts at 6:30.
Nice. And do you also give people maybe some recommendations or pointers about, we'll just say, gee, I'm thinking about buying a camera or upgrading a camera, and I might want to get into this sort of thing. Do you kind of make those recommendations when, of course not on television, because we don't want to endorse anybody who hasn't paid anything.
Exactly.
But if they were to come to the club, people would talk about the things that they have tried and what works. And
well, and that's another advantage of joining the club and coming to the club, is that we've got people who shoot literally every brand of camera.
Oh, okay.
So you can actually come and fondle things if you want, or like I always say, if you come to a field trip, you can borrow any of my lenses that I have.
Oh, okay.
If you shoot my brand. I shoot one particular brand because that's what I've always shot. I'm not in any allegiance because they're giving me stuff. This was the sundial that was out in our front yard. That's frost on there, the little spiny frost.
It's beautiful.
The Midwest gets this kind of frost quite a bit, but we don't see that a lot here in the Northwest. But yeah, you can come out and play with gear and get with those people who shoot what you're interested in and get their review on it. you know, how do you like it? You know, what are you doing? So it's really a good resource for a lot of different things, techniques in Photoshop and editing, if you want to go a certain direction with your art.
You know, it's true because there are so many, I don't know, one of my Facebook friends is like the Photoshop professionals or whatever. And I always think I really have to dig down a little bit into that because I find that so interesting, the way you can manipulate images.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can take just any old picture and then all of a sudden turn it into something really otherworldly just by playing with the color.
Yeah.
And I must confess that I really don't know what I'm doing, so I usually have to wind up saying delete changes and don't save changes.
Exactly. Yeah.
I just messed this picture up really badly, and I don't know how to get it back. But yeah, I think there's a lot you can do.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing, you know, to recommend that, you know, I mean, the standard program is somewhere between $600, $700, $800, depending on what suite you buy with Adobe Photoshop, and there's a lot of other editing programs out there as well.
Oh, like the one that comes with Microsoft Office.
Yeah,
that's the one I use.
You know, and a lot of people find that's pretty, you know, quickly learned and then not enough.
Right.
So I encourage people. We all talk about and you read about Photoshop 5. I think it's the current 6, whatever the current one is, and everybody really looks at that. But people overlook Elements, which is about $100 for their latest edition of that. So it's a huge difference. And Photoshop, straight up Photoshop, was created not as a photo program, believe it or not. It was a graphics program.
Oh, okay.
So it was made for artists to draw. So the photo is sort of misleading in that because it's, you know, it's made for computer art as opposed to just photography. So every time they do upgrades to editions, they sort of go back and forth between this is a little more graphic oriented, now this one's a little more photography oriented, and they go back and forth. But Elements, there's almost everything can be done. You may have to do an extra step or two. It's not quite as push button. So that's actually a better place to start.
That's really interesting. Okay, so, and that's probably some of the things that you talk about when people come to the club.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Now, where can we see your work?
Right now, I don't have my scottcarlphotography.com is coming down the pike.
Okay.
But right now, Facebook is really where you'll find it.
Okay.
Things like this. This was also, again, up at Ridgefield. This is
great.
A barn swallow.
What a darling little bird.
Yeah. He was expressing some disinterest in others that were flying about. So, yeah.
Okay. So you're find you on Facebook, and then now will you be showing at any fairs or festivals?
I don't have anything lined up right now for this year, but probably next year. That's the festival and fair circuit's kind of a lot of work for typically little return,
No kidding.
as you might know. So yeah, so probably there'll be hopefully more gallery work. Like I say, I'm working to maybe get some stuff in occurrence. I know that Leanne down at Pacific Frame has been virtually sending me a hammer all the time because she wants some of my stuff on some cards down there.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know that you said we're almost out of time, but that you do something at the Carlton Fun Days?
We do a photography contest. We sponsor that every year for the locals there, and yeah.
Is that pretty popular?
It is, yeah. We've gotten a lot of stuff, and we've actually, Julie's gotten a ton of sponsors that lined up for that with some really excellent prizes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, that's something. So you're a giver back to your community, and
Try to be.
You're from Yamhill, Carlton, and you still live there. Have you always lived there?
12 years in Yamhill, the rest of the time in and around Carlton.
Wow. So you really are a local guy.
Chained to it.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay. Well, I'm really glad that we could have you here today and see some of your work and hear about what you're doing. And most importantly, I think, you know, not only what you're doing, but what the Camera Club is doing, because it sounds like that's kind of a passion.
It really is, and it's a good thing. Yeah.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you.
Thank you.